The alarm screams filled every corner of the ship. Captain ran through the metal hallways, his boots hitting the floor hard with each step. Red emergency lights flashed all around him. Behind him, other crew members rushed to their stations. Everyone knew what the alarms meant. Something was very wrong. "Report!" shouted as he reached the bridge. His heart pounded in his chest. 3,000 people lived on this ship. 3,000 lives depended on him. Lee looked up from her console. Her face was pale and sweat dripped down her forehead. "Captain, the main engine is dead. Something hit us. Maybe a microasteroid. The damage is bad, really bad." Felt his stomach drop. They were 40 light years from Earth. No one could reach them out here. "Can you fix it?" Shook her head. "Not with what we have, and that's not the worst part. The engine explosion damaged our life support system. We're losing oxygen fast." "How long do we have?" asked. He already knew he wouldn't like the answer. 4 days, maybe 5 if we cut power to everything except critical systems." The bridge went silent. Everyone stared at their screens, not wanting to look at each other. 4 days. They had 4 days to live. Park, the medical officer, stepped forward. "Captain, people are already panicking. The families with children are asking questions. What do I tell them?" Closed his eyes for a moment. What could he say? They were going to die out here in the cold darkness of space, far from Earth, far from home. Tell them we're working on it. Tell them not to give up hope. But had no hope himself. He returned to his chair and stared at the main screen. Stars surrounded them, beautiful, cold, and uncaring. They had left Earth with such big dreams. A new world, a new beginning. Now they would never see it. 2 days passed. The air inside the ship grew thin. People moved slowly, trying to save oxygen. Children cried. Adults whispered prayers, stayed on the bridge, refusing to sleep. If these were his last days, he would spend them trying to save his people. On the 3rd day, suddenly jumped from her seat. "Captain, there's a ship. A ship is approaching us." Everyone rushed to the windows. A small vessel appeared from the darkness. It was strange looking, not like any human ship. The hull was covered in patches and dents. It looked old, very old, but it was moving toward them. "Are they responding to our distress signal?" asked. "Yes, sir, they're hailing us now." A face appeared on the screen. It was not human. The creature had large, gentle eyes and smooth, gray skin. Its mouth moved and strange sounds came out. Then the translation device kicked in. "Human vessel, we heard your call, you need help." Stood up straight. "Yes, we need help desperately. Our engine is destroyed and we're running out of air. Can you assist us?" The on the screen looked sad. "We are traders, we have little. Our own ship barely functions, but we cannot leave you to die." Over the next hours, the ship docked with the new dawn. The aliens came aboard carrying equipment, watched as they set up oxygen generators in the cargo bay. The machines were old and made strange noises, but they worked. Fresh air began flowing through the ship again. Worked with the engineers. They couldn't speak the same language well, but they understood each other through gestures and drawings. They showed her a star map. They pointed to an asteroid field not far away. "Crystals there," the engineer said slowly, using simple words. "Rare fuel crystals you can use for engine. We show you way." "Why are you helping us?" asked the captain later. "You barely have enough for yourselves." The captain touched his shoulder gently. "Life is precious, all life. We help because it is right. No other reason needed." Felt tears in his eyes. "We can pay you. We have supplies, technology, anything you need." The captain shook his head. "No payment, just remember us. We are of the outer veil. Remember that someone helped you when you needed it most." They guided the new dawn to the asteroid field. Their sensors were better than the human ones, even though their ship was older. They found the crystals exactly where they said, and her team worked for days, installing the new fuel source. It wasn't perfect, but it would get them to their colony world. When everything was ready, tried one more time to give the something. Food, medicine, tools, anything. But they refused everything. They simply smiled their strange alien smile and prepared to leave. "Wait," said. He pulled out his personal data pad and recorded a message. "This is Captain of Earth. On this day, they saved 3,000 human lives. They gave us everything they could spare and asked for nothing in return. Humanity will never forget this kindness. I swear it on my life and the lives of all those you saved today." The captain watched the recording and nodded. Then, without another word, the small ship detached and flew away into the darkness. Watched them go until they were just another point of light among the stars. The new dawn reached the colony world 3 weeks later. All 3,000 people survived. That night, as they stood on solid ground under an alien sky, told everyone about he made them all promise to remember, to never forget the small aliens who had saved them. The story spread. It was written in the colony's first historical record. Children learned about it in school. It became legend. And humanity promised that one day, somehow, they would repay this debt. 200 years had passed since the New Dawn incident. Earth was no longer a weak species struggling in space. Humans now lived on 200 worlds. Their ships traveled to every corner of the galaxy. They traded with dozens of alien species. They had become strong. But humans had not forgotten where they came from. Song walked through the massive halls of the Remembrance Archives. The building was huge, bigger than 10 city blocks. Every wall was covered with screens and holographic displays. Each one showed the name of an alien species. Each one told a story of how that species had helped humanity during the early, dangerous years. Was the director of the archives. It was one of the most important jobs in human space. Every human child visited this place at least once in their life. They learned about the debts their species owed. They learned that humanity never forgot kindness. Director Song, a voice called out, hurried toward him. She was young, barely 30, but she was the best on Earth. She studied alien cultures and their histories. "I found something big." Followed her to a private research room, pulled up dozens of screens filled with data. "I've been researching them for 3 years now. You know they're listed as Priority 1, right? The first species to ever help us. But we lost contact with them almost immediately after the New Dawn incident." "I know," said. "We've been trying to find them ever since. No luck." Until now. Eyes were bright with excitement. She showed him a star chart. "I found fragments of their language in an old trading post database. Then I cross-referenced it with stellar drift patterns and updated star positions. I think I know where they went." Leaned forward. "Where?" "The sector. It's on the edge of known space, but there's a problem." Smile faded. "Their sun is dying. According to the data I've collected from passing ships, the species living there matches the description. But they're in trouble, bad trouble." Before could respond, the door opened. Entered the room. He was a tall man in a military uniform. He worked for naval intelligence. "I heard you found he said without greeting. "Is it true?" "Maybe," said. "Thinks she's located them, but if it's really them, they're facing extinction." Pulled up another screen. "I know. I've been tracking the situation in the sector for 2 months. The species there, they're living around a red giant star. It's expanding. In less than 5 years, it will swallow their planets. All of them." "Can they evacuate themselves?" asked. "No, they're not advanced enough. They never developed faster-than-light travel. They're trapped in their system." Paused. "The Galactic Council knows about them. I checked. They reviewed the case and decided not to help." What stood up anger in her voice? "Why not?" "Economics. The council says it would cost too much to relocate them. They have 8 million individuals. The council says there are other species more worth saving, species that can pay them back or offer them something useful." Felt anger rising in his chest. This was wrong, so wrong. If they're the same species that saved 3,000 humans 200 years ago, then we have a debt to pay, finished. I've already prepared a report for the Earth government, but I wanted to confirm with you first. Are you certain these are the same? Pulled up images from long-range scans. The pictures were grainy, but they showed a species with large eyes and smooth gray skin. I'm 90% certain. The physical characteristics match. The location matches the direction they were traveling when they left Captain, and I found something else. She showed them an old recording. This was made by a human trader who passed through their system 50 years ago. Listen. The recording played. An alien voice spoke using broken human language. We remember humans. Long ago we helped human ship. They promised to remember us. Did they remember? The room fell silent. All three of them felt the weight of that question. Did they remember? Yes, said quietly. Yes, we remembered. He immediately contacted the Earth government. The response was faster than he expected. Within 6 hours, every major human government had agreed. Within 12 hours, the human military began mobilizing. Within 24 hours, the news spread across all human worlds. Humanity had found and they were dying. The response was incredible. Every human colony wanted to help. Money poured in from everywhere. Scientists volunteered. Engineers signed up by the thousands. The military prepared the largest peaceful fleet ever assembled in human history. Watched the news reports in his office. Humans everywhere were talking about the elderly people who had learned the story as children cried with joy that they had been found. Young people demanded that Earth do everything possible to save them. One reporter interviewed an old woman. She was 110 years old. She had been a child on the New Dawn. I was 5 years old when they saved us, she said, tears running down her wrinkled face. I remember those strange, gentle aliens. They gave us air to breathe when we had none. They asked for nothing. My whole life I've wondered if we would ever find them again. Now we have. We must save them. We must. The Galactic Council sent Earth a message. They warned that the rescue mission was too expensive. They said Earth should focus on more practical concerns. They suggested that some species were simply not meant to survive. The human ambassador sent a reply that became famous across the galaxy. Ambassador Shin stood before the council and spoke clearly. The Galactic Council may think in terms of profit and loss. Humanity thinks in terms of honor and debt. 200 years ago, when we were weak and dying, they saved us. They gave everything they could spare. Today, we are strong, and we will give everything we can spare to save them. This is not a debate. This is a promise kept. The message went viral across thousands of worlds. Other species watched humanity's response with confusion and awe. Many species had helped others before, but no species had ever mobilized their entire civilization to repay a debt 2 centuries old. Returned to office 1 week later. The fleet is ready, 500 ships, everything from colony transports to terraforming vessels to construction platforms. Admiral will command the operation. He's the best we have. How long until they reach the sector? Asked. 3 weeks at maximum speed. Was already packing her bags. I'm going with them. Someone needs to talk to explain what's happening. I've studied their language more than anyone. Nodded, then go, and tell them that humanity never forgets. Tell them we're sorry it took so long to find them, but we're here now, and we're going to save every single one of them. The fleet launched the next day. 500 ships rose from Earth and her colonies. They jumped into faster-than-light travel, heading toward the dying star system where they waited. Across human space, people gathered to watch. Children asked their parents if they would be okay. Parents assured them that humanity always kept its promises. 200 years. It had been 200 years since they had shown kindness to strangers. Now, finally, that kindness would be repaid. Admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the red giant star grow larger on the screen. The star was huge and angry-looking. It pulsed with deep red light. Around it, 5 small planets orbited slowly. On those planets lived 8 million lives that would soon end if humanity did nothing. "All ships reporting ready, Admiral," his second officer said. Nodded. 500 ships, the largest peaceful fleet humanity had ever gathered. Engineers, scientists, doctors, construction workers, and enough supplies to build entire cities. All of this for a species most humans had never met. All of this to repay a debt from 2 centuries ago. "Take us in," ordered. "And someone get me Sara. I want to know which planets we're working with before we make contact." Sara appeared on his communication screen moments later. She was the best terraforming engineer alive. She had turned dead rocks into garden worlds. If anyone could give the new home, it was her. "Admiral, I've already scanned the nearby system," Sora said. She looked tired but excited. "I found 3 planets perfect for terraforming. They're in a system about 6 light-years from here. All 3 have water, breathable atmosphere with minor adjustments needed, and stable suns that won't die for billions of years. We can have basic habitation ready in 6 months. Full terraforming in 3 years. 6 months is a long time," said. "That star could expand before then." "I know. That's why we're also bringing orbital habitats. We can house the entire population in space stations while we prepare their new worlds. It won't be comfortable, but they'll be safe." Smiled. "Good work. Now we just need to convince them to trust us." That was where Moon came in. She was humanity's best diplomat and first contact specialist. She had met with dozens of alien species. She knew how to talk to them, how to make them understand human intentions. But this was different. This wasn't a trade negotiation or a treaty. This was about saving a species that probably didn't even remember helping humans long ago. Prepared carefully, she studied every piece of information about the. She learned their language as best she could. She watched the old recording from Captain dozens of times. When the fleet entered orbit around the main planet, she was ready. The planet below looked sad. The red sun made everything look bloody. Cities covered the surface, but they were small and simple. They had never developed advanced technology. They were still the same gentle traders they had been 200 years ago. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the surface," the communications officer said. "They want to know who we are and what we want." "Put through," said. Took a deep breath and began speaking in the language. Her pronunciation wasn't perfect, but it was understandable. "People of, we are humans from the planet Earth. We have traveled very far to find you. We come in peace. We come to help." There was a long pause, then a response came back. "Humans, we have heard of humans. Many species travel through our space. What do you want from us?" "We want nothing from you," said. 200 years ago, your ancestors saved a human ship called the New Dawn. 3,000 humans would have died, but they gave them oxygen and showed them where to find fuel. They asked for nothing in return. Do you remember this?" Another long pause, then a different voice spoke. It sounded older, more formal. "I am elder of the council. What you say is in our oldest records. Our ancestors did help a human vessel long ago, but that was many generations past. Why do you speak of it now?" Felt her heart racing. "Because humanity never forgets kindness. Your ancestors saved our people when we were weak and desperate. Today we are strong, and we have learned that your sun is dying, that your people face extinction. We have come to repay the debt we owe." "Debt?" The elder sounded confused. "There is no debt. Our ancestors helped because it was right. They expected nothing in return." "We know," said gently. "But humans cannot accept kindness without repaying it. It is not our way. We have brought 500 ships. We have engineers, scientists, and enough resources to move your entire species to a new home. We have found 3 beautiful planets waiting for you. Please, let us help you as you once helped us." The communication went silent for a long time. Watched the clock. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Finally, the elder spoke again. His voice was shaking. You remembered. After so long, you remembered us. Every human child learns your story, said. Tears were running down her face now. We have never forgotten. We have been searching for you for 200 years, and now that we've found you, we will not let you die. Please, let us save you as you saved us. The elder's response was barely a whisper. We would be honored. Within hours, the operation began. Human ships descended to the planet's surface. Teams of engineers set up communication networks and coordination centers. Doctors examined them to understand their medical needs. Sara and her terraforming teams flew to the 3 new planets and began working immediately. They watched everything with wonder. Many of them were crying. They couldn't believe that anyone would do this for them. They were a simple people. They had nothing of value to offer. Yet here was an entire alien civilization working to save them. Elder met with them in person. He was old, his skin wrinkled and his eyes tired. But when he looked at them, those eyes were full of tears. I am the great-great-grandson of the elder who helped your captain, he said. My ancestor told me the story when I was young. He said the humans promised to remember us, but I never believed it. I thought it was just a story. I never imagined. Knelt down to be at the elder's level. They were shorter than humans. Your ancestor gave everything he could to save strangers. That is the greatest gift one being can give another. How could we forget that? How could we not repay it? The evacuation took 3 months. Human ships made hundreds of trips, moving families from their dying world to temporary orbital habitats. They didn't have much to bring. Most of their possessions were simple things. But the humans treated each item with respect, carefully packing and transporting everything. Children were moved first. The young ones were scared at first, but human children sent them videos and messages, welcoming them. The young ones from both species couldn't speak each other's languages well, but they drew pictures for each other. They played simple games together over video calls. Friendship needed no translation. Sara worked day and night on the new planets. Her teams built water purification systems, adjusted atmospheric processors, and planted fast-growing vegetation. They constructed cities designed specifically for needs. Everything was sized right for their smaller bodies. Everything was painted in colors that their eyes found pleasing. Jin, a human captain, led the joint construction teams. Workers joined with human engineers. At first, they were hesitant. They didn't think they could contribute much. But Jin showed them that many hands made light work. They were clever and they learned quickly. You're building your own future, Jin told them. These are your worlds. We're just helping you get there. 6 months after the fleet arrived, the first families moved to the surface of New Prime, the name given to the largest of the 3 planets. Elder was among them. He stepped out of the transport ship and looked around at rolling green hills, clear blue skies, and a stable yellow sun that would shine for billions of years. He fell to his knees and touched the ground. Around him, others did the same. They were home, a new home, a better home than they had ever had. That evening, humans and gathered together for a celebration. Food was shared. Music from both cultures played. An elder stood to speak. They are a simple people. We do not have great technology or wealth. All we have ever had is kindness. 200 years ago, my ancestor showed kindness to strangers because he believed it was right. Today, we learned that kindness is never wasted. Humanity has shown us that goodness echoes across time and space. You have saved us, but more than that, you have taught the whole galaxy what it means to have honor. Stood beside him. Humanity made you a promise 2 centuries ago. We promised to remember. Today, we kept that promise. But this is not goodbye. Humans and are bound together now. What was once a debt is now friendship, and friendship lasts forever. The galaxy was watching. News of what humanity had done spread to every corner of known space. On 1,000 worlds, aliens discussed the strange humans who had spent trillions of credits and mobilized 500 ships to save a species most of them had never met. A species that had helped them 2 centuries ago. Ambassador Shin stood before the Galactic Council once again. This time, the massive chamber was full. Representatives from every major species had come to hear her speak. The council members looked uncomfortable. Many of them had voted against helping the. Now they had to face the consequences of that decision. Ambassador Shin, the council speaker said. He was a tall, thin alien with blue skin. We have seen what your species did in the sector. The council wishes to understand. Why did humanity spend so much on a species that could offer nothing in return? Stood tall. Behind her, screens showed images of new Prime, happy families walking through new cities, children playing in parks, elders teaching the young ones about their history. You ask why we spent so much, said clearly. But you're asking the wrong question. The right question is, how could we not? 200 years ago, they gave everything they had to save 3,000 humans. They didn't ask if those humans were rich or powerful. They didn't ask what they would get in return. They saved lives because saving lives was right. That is a debt beyond price. That is a debt that must be repaid no matter the cost. But 200 years had passed, another council member said. She was from the species, known for their practical thinking. None of the humans alive today were on that ship. None of the alive today saved them. Why does humanity feel responsible for an old debt? Smiled. Because we're not individuals floating alone in space. We're part of something bigger. When they helped humanity, they didn't just help 3,000 people. They helped our entire species. They showed us what goodness looks like. They taught us that kindness matters more than profit. If we had forgotten them, if we had let them die when we could save them, what would that say about us? What kind of species forgets the ones who saved them? The chamber fell silent. Many of the alien representatives were thinking hard. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked thoughtful. One representative stood up. He was from a species called the Ambassador. My people helped humanity once. It was a small thing. 100 years ago, we shared medical information that saved a human colony from disease. At the time, we thought nothing of it. But if what you say is true, does humanity remember this too? Pulled up her data pad. She searched for a moment, then nodded. Yes, the medical team that helped Colony 7, Doctor and his staff, we remember. Your people saved 6,000 lives that day. What do you need, representative? How can humanity repay this debt? The representative looked shocked. You actually remember. It was so long ago, it was such a small thing. No act of kindness is small, said. Tell us what you need. Over the next weeks, something strange happened. Species from across the galaxy began contacting Earth. They came forward with stories of small kindnesses they had shown to humans during the early expansion days. A ship that had shared spare parts, a colony that had traded medicine, an outpost that had given directions through dangerous space. Each time humanity had recorded it. Each time humanity remembered. And each time humanity offered to repay the debt. To the humanity sent advanced medical technology and research teams. To the who had shared spare parts, humanity sent industrial equipment and training. To the who had given food to a hungry human station, humanity sent agricultural technology that doubled their food production. The galaxy watched in amazement. Humans were giving away technology, resources, and knowledge. They asked for nothing in return except the chance to say thank you. Was one of the lead coordinators of these repayment efforts. He worked from a massive office on Earth, tracking every debt and every repayment. His team worked around the clock. The list of species that had helped humanity was long, very long. How long will this take? His assistant asked one day. There are hundreds of species on the list. Looked at the list and smiled. However long it takes, we have all the time in the world. What matters is that we repay every single one. Our children's children will continue this work if necessary, but every debt will be honored. On New Prime, construction continued. Human engineers worked alongside builders. The 3 planets were becoming beautiful. Forests grew. Rivers flowed. Cities rose, designed with both functionality and beauty in mind. Jin walked through the central city with Elder. The old was healthier now. The new planet's atmosphere was better for his species than their old world had been. He moved with more energy. His eyes were brighter. "I have received messages from other on the different planets," the Elder said. "They are all thriving. Some are even starting to create art again. For many years we were too worried about survival to think about beauty. Now we can breathe again, literally and spiritually." Jin smiled. "Art is good. Art means hope. What kind of art do your people create?" "We carve stones and we sing. Would you like to hear a song?" "Very much." That evening Jin attended a gathering. Hundreds of came together in an open field under the stars. They sang in their own language. Jin didn't understand the words, but he understood the emotion. It was a song of gratitude, a song of new beginnings, a song of friendship. When it ended, they unveiled their gift to humanity. They had carved a massive stone monument. It showed two figures, one human and one, reaching out to each other across space. At the base were words in both languages, "Never forgotten." Jin felt tears on his face. Around him, other humans who had worked on the rescue were crying too. They surrounded them, touching their hands and arms gently, thanking them in soft voices. Back on Earth, the cultural impact of the rescue was enormous. Human philosophers wrote books about it. Teachers used it in their lessons. Politicians referenced it in speeches. The phrase "standard" became common language. It meant doing the right thing regardless of profit or benefit. Other species noticed this change. They saw how humans conducted business now. Humans were fair traders. They were honest negotiators. They honored their agreements absolutely. Because if humans could remember a debt for 200 years and repay it with such dedication, they could be trusted with anything. The Galactic Council passed a new law. They called it the Remembrance Clause. It stated that all council members must honor the debts and kindnesses of their past. No species could be left to die if they had once shown kindness to another council member. No good deed would be forgotten. Many council members voted for it reluctantly. They knew it would cost them resources, but they also knew that humanity had changed everything. The galaxy couldn't go back to the old way of thinking, the old way where profit mattered more than kindness, the old way where old debts were forgotten. Stood in her office on the council station looking out at the stars. Her assistant brought her reports. More species were reaching out. More debts were being remembered and repaid. The galaxy was slowly changing. "Do you think it will last?" her assistant asked. "This new way of thinking?" Thought for a moment. Some species will forget eventually. Some will go back to their old ways, but humanity won't. We'll keep remembering. We'll keep repaying. And maybe, just maybe, enough other species will join us. Maybe kindness can become normal instead of rare. On New Prime, the first child was born on the new world. His parents named him after the human captain who had made the promise 2 centuries ago. When Elder held the baby, he whispered to him, "Little one, you will grow up in a world saved by kindness. Never forget that. Never forget that goodness matters. Never forget that we survived because someone somewhere cared enough to remember us." The baby couldn't understand the words, but someday he would. Someday all the children would learn the story. They would learn about the humans who crossed the galaxy to save them. They would learn that kindness never dies. It just waits for the right moment to bloom again. The galaxy was watching, and the galaxy was learning. One act of kindness at a time, the universe was becoming a better place. 60 years had passed since the rescue. Minyu Jian sat in his small apartment on Earth, looking at old photos on his wall. He was 92 years old now. His body was tired, but his mind was sharp. He remembered everything about those 6 months in the sector. He had been a young engineer then, barely 30. Now his hair was white, and his hands shook when he reached for his morning tea. The doorbell chimed. Minyu smiled. He knew who it was. Every year on this day they came for him. A young officer in a clean uniform stood at his door. Minyu Jian, I'm here to escort you to New Prime for the anniversary celebration. I'm ready, Minyu said. He had been ready for weeks. This trip was the highlight of his year. Every year they invited all the humans who had participated in the rescue. Fewer came each year. Time was taking them one by one. But those who could still travel made the journey. It was important. The transport ship was full of elderly humans. Minyu recognized many faces. They hugged each other, shared stories, laughed about the old days, some cried. They were all thinking the same thing. This might be the last time. Next year there might be even fewer of them. But there was also a young face on the ship. Minyu didn't recognize her at first. Then she came over and introduced herself. Minyu Jian, I'm captain. I command the exploration vessel Bright Morning. Minyu's eyes widened. Are you related to Captain? He was my grandfather, said with pride. He died when I was young, but he told me stories about the who saved him. I grew up hearing about kindness and debts and promises. That's why I became a captain. I want to carry on his legacy. Minyu took her hand in his old, shaking ones. Your grandfather was a good man. He made sure we never forgot. Everything we did for the started with his promise. The ship arrived at New Prime a day later. Minyu looked out the window as they descended. The planet was beautiful. 60 years of growth had transformed it into a paradise. Green forests covered the hills. Blue oceans sparkled in the sunlight. Cities gleamed like jewels across the continents. It was hard to believe this was the same species that had been dying on a planet under a red sun. They had prepared a massive celebration. The monument they had built 60 years ago was now the center of a huge park. Millions came from all 3 planets to attend. They wore colorful clothing and carried flowers. When the elderly humans arrived, they surrounded them with gentle affection. They touched their hands and faces softly, thanking them in whispered voices. Elder's great-granddaughter, now the leader of the council, welcomed them. She looked so much like the old elder that Minyu felt his heart ache. Had died 10 years ago, but his family continued his work. Honored friends, she said, 60 years ago you gave us life. Today we celebrate not just our survival but our friendship. Humans and are bound together forever. What started as a debt has become love. The celebration lasted 3 days. There was music, food, art, and stories. Children performed plays showing the history of the rescue. Human and musicians played together, creating beautiful new music that combined both cultures. Artists displayed works that showed the rescue fleet arriving like angels from the stars. On the second day, something special happened. The humans were taken to a building they had never seen before. Inside was a museum dedicated entirely to the rescue. Every detail was recorded. Every ship that had come, every engineer who had worked, every doctor who had helped. They had spent decades collecting information, interviewing survivors, gathering stories. Minyu walked through the museum with tears streaming down his face. He saw his own picture on the wall, his younger self, smiling and covered in dirt from working on the terraforming machines. Next to his picture was a quote he had given in an interview decades ago. We came because it was right. We stayed because they became our friends. But the most amazing thing was in the central chamber. They had preserved Captain's original message, the one he had recorded on the New Dawn 260 years ago. They had also created something incredible. Using advanced technology, they had preserved his consciousness as an artificial intelligence, not to bring him back, but to let future generations hear his voice and his thoughts. The AI was activated for special occasions. Today was one of those occasions. Stood before the display and her grandfather's face appeared. It wasn't really him. It was a computer recreation based on all his recordings, his writing, his decisions. But it spoke with his voice and his wisdom. Grandfather said softly, I'm here. I'm a captain now just like you. The AI smiled. Then you understand. You understand why the promise was important, why remembering matters. Yes, said, I've been exploring new sectors. Last month I found a species that was struggling. Their colony ship had broken down. They were scared and desperate. And I helped them, grandfather. I helped them because of what you taught me, because of what the taught us. The AI nodded. That's good, that's how it should be. One act of kindness creates ripples. Those ripples spread across space and time. You're part of those ripples now. Elder's great-granddaughter stood beside. Captain, your promise changed everything. Not just for but for the whole galaxy. Other species have followed humanity's example. They remember their debts. They honor their promises. You started something that will never end. That evening, during the final celebration, something unexpected happened. Ships began arriving from all over the galaxy. Representatives from dozens of species came to New Prime. They came to witness the anniversary. They came to see what humanity and the had built together. They were there. All the species that humanity had repaid debts to. They brought their own stories of how humanity's gratitude had changed their worlds. They had used human medical technology to eradicate diseases. They had built new industries with human equipment. They had ended hunger on their worlds with human agricultural science. But they also brought new stories. Stories of how they had started helping others, how they had begun remembering their own debts, how they had formed an alliance dedicated to the principle that kindness matters more than profit. They called themselves the Alliance of Honored Debts. 30 species had joined. They had created their own version of the Remembrance Archives. They tracked kindnesses and repaid them. They helped species in need. They refused to let good deeds be forgotten. The leader of the alliance spoke to the gathered crowd. Humanity showed us a better way. The taught humanity. Now we all learn from each other. The galaxy is changing. It's becoming a place where helping others is normal, not rare, where remembering is expected, not exceptional. Minyu watched all of this from his seat. He was so old now. He could barely walk without help, but his heart was full. He had lived long enough to see the dream come true, the dream that kindness could change everything. Late that night, after most of the celebrations had ended, Minyu sat in the park near the monument. The stars were bright above him, found him there and sat down beside him. It's beautiful, isn't it? Minyu said. I was just a young engineer. I fixed machines and dug ditches. I never imagined it would become this. You were part of something bigger, said. Every person who came to help was part of changing the galaxy. Your grandfather would be proud of you, Minyu said. You're carrying on his work. Every time you help someone, every time you show kindness, you prove that his promise still matters. Nodded. I found another struggling species last month. They're not dying, but they need help. They need technology and knowledge. I've already sent reports to Earth. We're going to help them. Good, Minyu said. That's good because that's what humans do. We remember, we repay, we help. Not because we expect anything back, but because it's right. They sat in silence for a while, looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, the new dawn still existed. It had become a museum ship, traveling from world to world, showing people where it all started. Somewhere out there, the old vessel that had saved it was also preserved, carefully maintained by engineers who treated it as their most sacred artifact. Do you think it will last forever? Asked. This new way of thinking. Minyu smiled. Nothing lasts forever, but we can make it last as long as possible, as long as there are humans who remember, as long as there are who teach their children about gratitude, as long as species help each other instead of using each other, it will continue. He paused, then added, 260 years ago, a small group of aliens with almost nothing saved 3,000 humans with everything they had. That one act of kindness changed the entire galaxy. Imagine what we can do if we all keep being kind. Imagine what the galaxy will look like in another 260 years. Helped Minyu stand up. Together they walked slowly back toward the lights of the celebration. Behind them, the monument stood tall against the stars, two figures, human and reaching across space, and carved in stone at the base, never forgotten. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Kindness is never wasted. Good deeds echo across time and space. And humanity, the species that never forgot, would make sure that lesson was never lost. In the darkness of space, somewhere far away, ship waited. Tomorrow she would return to her crew. They had new worlds to explore, new species to meet. And if they found someone in trouble, someone who needed help, they would give it without hesitation. Because humanity never forgets a helping hand, and their gratitude resonates across galaxies.